Hey there, welcome back to ObsecTactics. Today we've got hold of the new Drukhari rules and we're going to take a look through there and see if there's anything special we want to talk about or indeed some of the very negative things that are on the horizon.
two two books here. One's got some additional rules if you're playing Witch Cult, specifically Cult of Strife, and lovely new book. Gotta love that smell.
New book smell is brilliant.
Yeah, well, I'm not a big Drukhari player, but reading through it, I found a number of what I think are really cool combos. Some of them are particularly strong, and they're very much like they should be. They're a glass cannon faction. They do a lot of damage, but they're not great at taking a hit.
Hmm. I will say I'm particularly interested in checking out this codex with a view to how Harlequins are maybe going to behave in the future in ninth as well.
Yeah, so I'm half expecting an FAQ to drop pretty soon about Harlequins with their Haywire jet bikes, because the new Haywire rules that the Drukhari get are very different.
Oh, oh, I can't wait. Right. Well, why don't we kick off and dive straight in?
Yep, so right on the page here, we've got the new detachment abilities. So the big takes from here is the raiding forces. If you have 3 patrols, each of your patrols costs 0 command points, which, because you get the refund for the warlord, you start 14 command points for taking triple patrol. Yeah.
That's very nice, isn't it?
Yeah, that is pretty good. Um, there's the weaklingkin here, rule here. So you can't include Drukhari and non-Drukhari Eldari units in the same detachment unless they're Ynnari.
Makes sense.
So you can't put Craft Worlds in a Drukhari detachment. You can't put Drukhari in a Craft Worlds detachment. Um, Same goes for Harlequins. But if you've got Ynnari models, you can add them into Drukhari detachments. Then one that's getting a lot of talk online is this real space raid. So if you have all 3 of the character types, so an Archon, a Homunculus, and a Succubus in the same detachment with a unit of Carbolite Warriors, a unit of Witches, and a unit of Racks, all of those different cults, covens, and carbals get their respective abilities.
So would I be right in thinking that the Archon, the Succubus, and the Homunculus are kind of like leaders of these sub factions, and then is like a representative from each, right?
Yeah, so the Archons are the leaders of the Cabal, the Succubus are the leaders of the Witch cults, and the Homunculi are the leaders of the Homunculi covens.
Okay.
Um, and what this real space raid detachment allows you to do is, so if your warlord is an Archon, it allows you to take a witch cult relic on your succubus without having to mess around with stratagems. At the moment, I'm leaning towards the triple patrol. I must admit, I really like those extra command points. And the other benefit of the real space raid is your Archon, his reroll ones for Carbal units ability changes to reroll ones for real space raider core units.
Oh, so he's giving it to
So
everyone.
so yeah, he gives it to everyone. So your homunculi, coven, your witch cults, and your carbals. Moving on down, we've got the Lords of Comra. So much like the chapter command, you've got you can pay extra points and increase the power level to gain extra abilities and warlord traits and relic options for the different characters. So Archons here for an extra 15 points, they gain Splintered Genius, which is once per battle they can fight twice in the so they get an extra fight at the end of the fight phase. The warlord trait that they can take,
And they can do that. Oh, it's just once per battle, I see, and for 15 points. Okay, okay, yeah, that's
yeah,
all right.
and you can only do this once per detachment
Right, okay.
for each one. So in a real space raid, you could master up all 3 of your HQs.
Mm-hmm.
And it also allows you to take their retinue units as well. So the Warlord trait here is Consummate Weapon Master, +1 damage to all your melee weapons. With a Husk Blade, that's pretty cool. A Husk Blade is already damage 3, so that takes it up to damage 4.
I mean, from the looks of it, this looks a lot stronger than the Death Guard one we did. Where we looked at the section where you can spend 15, 20 points or so to put a deadly pathogen on something. These seem just
Yeah.
flat up
Oh,
better.
sorry. Quick correction. The Husk Blade is damage 2, which this will take to damage 3. If you
Okay, yeah. I mean,
and
it's a 50% increase.
Yeah. And this Soul Helm relic, it's you gain the following abilities. Each time an attack is made that targets you, it's -1 to hit. And if you lose a wound, you gain a 5 up, feel no pain. So I'm not big on the Master Archon, but the Master Archon does give you access to Trueborn units, and they're cool.
Okay, well, I don't know anything about those. You'll have to explain that to me.
Yeah, so we'll get to those after we've been through the other masters.
All right, then.
So the Witch Cult masters, for an extra 15 points, they gain the Show Stealer ability. So when they make a consolidation move, they can move up to 6 and in any direction.
Oh,
So they can charge in, fight you, and then move 6 away out of engagement range.
that's not okay.
that's pretty strong.
Yeah.
And it's very with one of the relics that I like. You can actually have your succubus very easily with 10 attacks.
Oh, so he's now a solitaire, except maybe he's good in combat. Yeah, I said it.
But yes.
Solitaires are awful. They we started.
So the relic that you gain access to with this is it replaces your Archite Glaive, and it's a +2 strength, AP4, damage 2. The unmodified rolls of 6s can't take invulnerable saves.
Just on unmodified rolls of 6s. And you said this.
So with this relic,
10 attacks, you reckon?
with this relic, you could have 7 attacks.
Okay.
And it's a different relic that gives you another 3 attacks, which is really cool.
So you're basically looking at average 1 per round of combat. Okay.
Yeah. And the Warlord trait that they gain access to is Whirling Death. Each time a Warlord fights, after pile-in moves, until that fight is resolved, you can choose for its attack characteristics to be equal to 3 plus the number of enemy models that are within 2 inches.
Okay.
So if you're against a Horde unit, like say you get into 10 guardsmen with your base, and you get 5 of them in range, assuming you give it combat drugs for +1 attack, so that's 4 plus the number of models, then you could have the relic that gives you an extra 3 attacks, so that's 7 plus number of models, and say you've got 5 enemy models in range, that's 13 attacks. 12 for that, but you could easily get 6 models for 13.
This seems incredibly strong, even by 9th edition standards.
They hit very hard. But remember, these models are toughness 3 with not a huge amount of wounds.
How many wounds are we talking, roughly? 4 or 5?
5 or 6, yeah.
5 or 6.
I'll quickly just double check in here. Yeah, 5 wound characters at toughness 3. So they fall over like paper, but they hit real hard.
I mean, they're hitting harder than Harlequins here, easily.
Yeah. So if you are looking for tankiness within Drukhari, you're looking at Homunculi Coven. They're not super tanky, but they're tanky enough. So for 20 points, you can make a Master Homunculus. And the ability they gain is once per battle, when they're destroyed, on a 2+, they're set back up with D3 wounds remaining.
On a 2+, damn.
Yeah,
That's really,
so
really
basically you turn
reliable.
your homunculi into Celestine.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good.
The relic that gains access to for those 20 points is once per game until the end of your movement phase. At the end of your movement phase, you can pop the relic. If you do, select an enemy unit within 9, or roll a d6. On a 2+, they take d3 more wounds. And until the start of your next turn, any auras they have no effect.
Mm.
And until the start of your next turn, they can't be affected by the auras of other friendly models. So this, if you're jumping out of a transport and shutting down your opponent's auras, that's really fun. It does cost you a relic slot, and it's once per game.
Mm.
But because it's not a ranged weapon, you can target characters with it very easily as well.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. That's pretty nice. Does this thing you put this on, does it have to be your warlord or
No.
no?
So
Okay.
with the Real Space Raid, there's a stratagem for 1 command point that if your Archon is the Warlord, you can give a Warlord trait to each homunculi and succubus in that detachment.
So you could make this a sacrificial lamb basically to remove rerolls and such for one turn, right?
Yeah, and homunculi are actually fairly difficult to remove.
Really? Okay.
And the Warlord trait that they gain access to for those 20 points as well is in your command phase, you can select a friendly homunculi coven rack unit within 3 of them. And D3 models that were destroyed previously in the battle are brought back.
Not bad.
And yeah, it's pretty good. But the biggest thing that making the Masters gives you access to is the favored retinues. So we'll start off with the Archon's retinue. So for each Master Archon in your army, you can take 1 unit of these. It's a Carbolite unit that has a maximum size of 10. They have a ballistic skill of 2+. They get +1 leadership, taking them to leadership 9. And each time they make a ranged attack, they ignore any and all hit roll and ballistic skill modifiers. So they're hitting Calexis assassins on 2s. They're hitting Mortarion with his
Miasma.
Miasma on 2s. And most of them carry poison weapons.
Yeah.
It also means if you load them up with a heavy weapon, they can move and fire without penalty.
Hmm. Okay.
It costs you 2 points extra per model, plus the 15 for the Archon. But a unit of 10 of these is 100 points.
Yeah, that's still not terrifically expensive, is it?
No, that's not. The Hecatrix Blood Brides, so for each Master Succubus or Lilith you have. Lilith is the special character for the witch cults.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that one. Just that one. Surprise, surprise.
So for an extra 2 points per model, you can have a max unit size of 10 on a unit of witches, and they gain weapon skill 2+, an extra leadership, and each time an attack made by them that would trigger the Blade Artist's ability, the AP characteristic of their attack is increased by 3 instead of 1. So Blade Artists is the each unmodified 6 to hit increases your AP by 1.
Sure.
Yeah. So a unit of these going from AP1 on their weapons to AP4 for 6s to hit. Now they can start chunking through some power armor.
Yeah. Is there any way to, other than strategic reserves, get these like a deep strike effect?
Yes. So there's a stratagem that if you deep strike with a transport, they can then get out after the transport deep strikes.
they still surely have to be 9 inches away after, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Or there's another stratagem that you can webway portal them in and just give a unit deep strike.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My thinking is that they're very, very cool, but obviously you're putting a big bullseye on these guys.
Oh yeah, they're
Um,
very fragile,
yeah.
especially to shooting.
Yeah. Target priority is going to be real high on any of these, I think.
Yeah. And again, here come the tanks. For an extra 2 points a model, you can make a rack unit a unit of hemocytes or hemocytes, whichever pronunciation one you use.
Either.
So for each Master Homunculus or Urian Rakarth model, you can give the unit a maximum unit size of 10, because racks come in units of up to 20 now. And you improve their save by 1 and their invulnerable save by 1. So with Power from Pain, they start at a 6-up invulnerable, and from turn 3, it's a 5-up invulnerable, which this takes to a 4-up from turn 3. They get +1 leadership, and once per phase, it's the first time a saving throw is failed for the unit, the damage characteristic is changed to 0.
Oh yeah, that's the Space Marine. Was it? Is it
The
infiltrators?
Adept Helix from
Yeah,
Hit
yeah,
Infiltrators, yeah.
that's it. Yeah, yeah.
But
Okay.
these get it for an extra 2 points a model. So again, it would be 100 points for a unit of 10 of these. They become pretty hard to kill, especially with the Master Homunculus can be reviving D3 of them every turn.
That's every turn, is it? Oosh.
Yeah, so they get to change your damage characteristic to 0 once per phase. So shooting phase, fight phase,
Mm-hmm.
and then the Master Homunculus brings back D3 a turn.
Yeah. They. Right. Okay. So surely that brings us to the end of all that awesome stuff. They can't get any more after that.
Oh no, they've got a whole book of awesome stuff.
Of course
Like,
they do. Of course they do.
so the cults and covens, it's basically describing how which cults are which cults, covens are which homunculi covens, and cabals are your basic Dark Eldar Carbolites. On to the really interesting things. What do your abilities do? Cabal of the Black Heart, everyone knows it because they had Vect. They still got Vect, it's changed.
Okay.
So their obsession is thirst for power. The units with this obsession that have the Power from Pain ability treat the current battle round as being 1 higher than usual, which means Black Heart detachments or units can advance and charge turn 1.
Mm-hmm.
In a real space raid detachment, a Archon of the Black Heart gains the ability that all blades for hire have the Power from Pain also increase their Power from Pain by 1. So that's units of Incubi can advance and charge turn 1, +1 leadership, and when they're selected to shoot or fight, they can re-roll 1 hit roll. So this is pretty good on things like Raiders that have Dark Lance with 1 shot.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So you roll your attack roll, you miss, you just re-roll it once per unit. The Warlord trait is Labyrinthine Cunning. Each time you or your opponent spends a command point on a 6, you regain 1. And you could have this in Triple Patrol where you start with 14.
Yep.
Writ of the Living Muse is an Archon-only Warlord trait. His aura of reroll 1s to hit will also affect Blades for Hire units.
Okay.
So he can give reroll 1s to hit to, again, Incubi, things like that.
Right. Okay. And
The Agents of Vect stratagem. So it used to be 4 command points
Mm-hmm.
to turn off an enemy stratagem. Now it's 0 command points. And when your opponent uses a stratagem that is not command reroll, until the end of the battle, any further uses of that stratagem cost 1 more to use. And you can only use this stratagem once per game.
Okay.
So Space Marines, they use Transhuman on a unit of 5 Primaris for 1 CP. For the rest of the game, they're now having to pay 2 CP to Transhuman.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting one. It's hard for me to decide right away whether I think it's better or worse. I
Yeah.
think it's just taken a direct sidestep, hasn't it?
It's taken a very much a sidestep.
Mm.
But the other abilities on here, I like the fact that they get advance and charge turn 1. But Blackheart is not my favorite pick from Drukhari anymore. My favorite pick from Drukhari, as far as Carbolites go, is the next one. And there's a few combos that I've got to go through with those.
Oh, well, let's crack on.
So Carbol of the Poison Tongue. These guys, just on paper, I haven't tested it a huge amount, seem amazing. Their obsession is each time they make an attack with a poison weapon, they improve the poison weapon ability by 1. So splinter rifles that have poison 4+ are now poison 3+.
This is not okay. This is not okay.
That's already really good. But then they get this additional ability, which, while not good against things like Space Marines, is going to affect a few armies. So if an enemy unit has any models destroyed by an attack made with a poison weapon, by a model with this obsession, until the end of the turn, you -1 from combat attrition tests for them.
Mm.
So that means if they fail their morale, they're running away on 1s and 2s. If they're
half strength, it's 3.
If they're half strength, it's 1s, 2s, and 3s.
Mm.
If you have a Dark Creed Homunculi Coven unit within 6 inches of them, it's 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s. And if you've killed their Warlord in close combat, there's a stratagem which you can make it 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s.
Jeez.
Like, you really can leadership bomb.
Yeah. Damn it.
I think these pair amazingly with Dark Creed, and that's actually what the list that I have prepared is. So they get access to a Warlord trait here. Towering Arrogance. Each time the Warlord would lose a wound as a result of a mortal wound, you get a 5-up Feel No Pain. And you gain the following ability. While a friendly Poison Tongue Carbol unit is within 6, each time they take combat attrition tests, they ignore modifiers. So they can mess with your combat attrition, but you can't mess with theirs.
Yeah. I'm not too fussed about that one, but the obsession is crazy.
Yeah, the obsession is really good, and their stratagem's really good. So their relic, quickly, it's a relic pistol. They're typically not great. This one's all right. So it's a range 18, pistol 2, strength 2, but it's poison 2+. AP 2, damage D3.
And it's a sniper by the looks.
And it ignores Lookout Sir.
Hmm.
So you can snipe support characters with this, hit on 2s, wound on 2s, damage D3, AP 2.
So
that's a company commander dead.
Yeah, so just to go back to the obsession, and I guess it also affects this pistol. It says poison 2, so we're automatically wounding on 2s. The interaction between that and Dark Angel's first company, the inner circle, cannot be wounded on any better than a 4. Takes precedence, right?
Yes, I believe cannot abilities supersede abilities that say you can.
Yeah, I believe so too. Okay. Well, that's something.
that would actually be something for an FAQ, is like how to poison 2+ weapons or poison 3+ weapons interact with transhuman. Because transhuman says irrespective of abilities.
Yeah.
Whereas, so I am assuming transhuman wins there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've seen that in an actual FAQ. I'm sure
Yeah.
that one's actually already been seen too. The reason I ask, obviously Gareth knows, but you guys at home probably won't. I've spent like the last 2 weeks painting a Dark Angel Deathwing army. So
Yeah. But the other really good thing you get from this Carball, on top of their obsession, is for 2 command points. At the start of the first battle round, you can select up to 3 Carball of the Poison Tongue units from your army and redeploy.
oh,
And if the mission uses strategic reserves, any of those units can be placed into strategic reserves without costing additional command points.
that's insane. Redeploys are so
It's
horrifically powerful
redeploy that you can go into reserve with.
for free.
Yeah.
You're getting 14 odd command points apparently, and then
Yeah, it's really good. Like you get that on top of the messing with your opponent's like leadership and getting poison 3 up standard rifles.
well, I honestly think redeploys are probably the most powerful mechanic in the game, especially when it's not just
Oh,
like one
definitely.
unit. When it's three,
Yeah.
it's so much.
Like this would also work if you were to take, say, 3 poison tongue raiders with 6 units of 5 carbolites inside, and you'd redeploy the raiders.
Yeah,
Which means you're effectively getting redeploy 9 out of that.
yeah, it's so horrifically strong.
Yeah. So that is my favorite Carball out of this
Yeah,
book.
I'm not surprised. Well, if anything beat that, I would hate to see it. I would hate to see it.
So here's 2 on 1 page. So we've got Couple of the Flayed Skull, Slave from the Skies. Each time a model is obsession from a unit that can fly or that is embarked on a transport that can fly makes a ranged attack, the target does not receive cover or benefits of light cover.
Meh.
I mean, there's a lot of AP0, AP1 for Dark Eldar, so it's relevant.
It's not
and
terrible, but
and all of the vehicles gain +2 movement.
yeah, it's
So
not
their
terrible.
raiders,
But
so
when
their
you,
raiders go up to a 16-inch move.
yeah, when you look at the page above, though,
Oh yeah, when you're looking at this compared to Poison
yeah,
Tongue,
no contest.
yeah, like their warlord trait is +1 attacks and strength.
Which is really weird, right? From like Games Workshop's perspective, were these all written by different people who are not singing from the same hymn sheet? Surely
I
not.
don't know, but it very much seems that Poison Tongue is the winner out of the Carbles for me.
Yeah,
And
bit odd.
Black Heart are still good. I just think Poison Tongue are better now. And you've got Obsidian Veil, which is their relic. They gain a 4+ invulnerable save for their Archon. It's not bad, but Archons have already got a Shadow Field, which is a 2+ invulnerable save that stops working after the first fail.
Yeah.
And the stratagem that Flayed Skull get is when you select a Flayed Skull unit from your army to shoot with, until the end of the phase, if you target a unit that has fly, you add +1 to the hit roll. If that targets an aircraft, you add 2 instead. It's just a bit lackluster when compared to the other 2 that we've been through so far.
Sure. Totally agree.
Obsidian Rose, these ones have got a little bit of interest to them. So flawless workmanship. Add 6-inch to the range of all your assault, rapid fire, and heavy weapons that are not relics. So now you've got 30-inch range on your splinter rifles. You've got things like shredders become longer range. It's really cool. And each time a unit with this obsession is selected to shoot or fight, you can re-roll a wound roll. So again, so things like raiders with dark lances, it's that one shot. If you hit, then you fail the wound, you get to re-roll it without a CP. So they've got an interesting one. Their warlord trait is +1 strength to any weapons that the warlord is equipped with. I think it's a little bit lackluster because a lot of people are going to want to take the relics on them, and this doesn't work on the relics.
Yeah, I don't. Nah. Let's move on.
And the Armor of Misery. They get a 3+ save, and each time an attack's made against them, it's -1 to hit.
Hmm. Yeah, not sold on those either of those.
And failure is not an option. After taking a combat attrition test for an Incision and Rose unit, but before any models flee, you can shoot with each model that would flee, that's not in engagement range. So here we've got other cabals. It's how you make your own cabal. There's some all-consuming traits that take up both of your slots, or you can pick 2. I've been through these briefly, and compared to the major cabals, they don't really sell me. It's probably because I fell in love with Poison Tongue, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I had a quick glance over these, and there's really nothing there that takes my fancy, I have to say.
Yeah. So next we've got Witch Cults. Cult of Strife. This has a very sad story to it, because if you want to play Cult of Strife to its full efficiency, you have to spend another 35 on the Book of Rust, because it has a Cult of Strife supplement in it, which gives you extra stratagems, extra warlord traits, extra relics. Cult of Strife are good, but it costs you another book to be able
I
to play them to their full efficiency.
I really find it so frustrating when Games Workshop do this. Um, it's it's quite obviously just a money thing. They're doing pretty well. It seems a shame um, that
Yeah,
they're
it
kind of single one very specific faction out for.
well,
Um,
there's supplements for other factions in that Book of Rust as well,
yeah, there's an AdMech bit,
but
isn't there? I think if I
yeah,
remember.
and there's a supplement for House Raven Knights, and there's some like Armies of Renown in there. But the fact that you get a supplement for witch cults in this book, and they were released on the same day,
Oh yeah,
it it's a tough pill to swallow.
it leaves a bad taste in your
I,
mouth, doesn't it?
I,
Yeah, really does.
I get that the release schedule has been messed up, because the Drukhari book was probably supposed to be out a couple of months ago, and Book of Rust might have been due for this time. So there probably should have been a couple of months in between their releases. But the fact they dropped on the same day makes it a very tough pill.
Yeah, I really don't like when they release like tiny little supplements in very expensive books. I would
It's not
much
even a tiny
rather,
supplement. It's 3 pages of rules.
yeah, I would much rather see that in a White Dwarf.
Yeah,
You don't mind paying a fiver for it. You don't mind that.
yeah,
35 is
yeah.
cheeky. It's cheeky. I'm going to say it.
All right. So I will cover the Book of Rust stuff with them if you and because there's a couple of just interesting bits here. Here it is. 2 pages of warlord traits and relics, and an extra page of stratagems.
That's it.
That's the full 8 stratagems. Most of them are pretty good, and extra warlord traits and relics.
Okay.
And one of my favorite combos from Drukhari actually uses a warlord trait out of this.
Okay.
So their obsession. Let's get on to the positives. At the start of the fight phase, if an enemy unit's in engagement range with them, they fight first. So just flat fight first.
Even
Pretty
if
good.
even if they were charged.
Yep.
Real good.
They just get to fight first. And each time they declare a charge against a unit that has no other units from your army already in engagement range, they get +1 to charge.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really handy being able to get that reliable charge. So they could be coming out of Deep Strike, get an 8 to charge out of Deep Strike, and they fight first.
Hmm. So, assuming they're charging I don't know, let's say a big Death Guard chunk of army, which happened to have a Blightspawn with VATS on it.
Yep.
What happens?
So he would remove their fight first ability
Okay.
and their charge.
So both. Okay, right. Okay.
Yeah. So it's not great into that specific Death Guard combo,
Yeah,
but into so many other things.
sure. We are seeing in ninth that that ability pop up more and more, so maybe it will
Yeah.
become a little bit more commonplace.
So the Warlord trait they get in this book is Blood Dancer. Each time your Warlord makes a melee attack, an unmodified hit roll of 6 scores 2 additional hits. So Tesla on your melee attacks. And you could very easily get 10 attacks with these things, as I said before. It's not bad.
Yeah, I don't think it's amazing, but
yeah, but then in the Book of Rust, they get 3 other Warlord traits that Cult of Strife get access to.
mm-hmm.
So there's Master Executioner, which is each time they make an attack, they can reroll wound rolls. There's Unparalleled Agility, which is each time an attack is made against this Warlord, -1 to the hit and wound roll. The -1 to wound is pretty big there. And Competitive Edge, which is one I really like. So each time this Warlord fights, if all of its attacks target one enemy unit, after resolving all of those attacks, it can make a number of additional attacks against that enemy equal to the number of attacks that did not reach the inflict damage step of the attack sequence during that fight.
Interesting.
So, combo time. You've got Cult of Strife Succubus with 6 attacks, +1 attacks from combat drugs,
Mm-hmm.
+3 attacks from the relic whip.
Mm-hmm.
That is poison 2 plus AP 3 damage 2.
Gross.
So you're hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s, with 10 attacks at AP 3 damage 2, and each one your opponent saves, you get to make another attack. Oh, also, each one you miss or each one you fail to wound with, you get that extra attack as well.
I assume that they can only each attack can only proc one more attack, right? There's got to be a limit to it, surely.
Yes, I believe there was a rulebook FAQ that said additional attacks can't generate further attacks.
Yeah, cool. It's really good. It's really good.
It's much more reliable damage. Then they get the relic, the File Bouquet. So roll a d6 at the start of each battle round until the end of the battle round. The bearer gains the associated effect from combat drugs ability table. The effect can be one that the bearer is already affected by and is cumulative.
Oh. Okay.
It's pretty cool, but I think the relic whip that we'll get to later is better.
Okay, cool.
And their 2 CP stratagem. Use the stratagem at the end of your shooting phase or the end of the fight phase. Select a Cult of Strife Witches unit from your army. If it's the shooting phase, it can shoot again. If it's the fight phase, it can fight again. You can use it once per battle round.
Very cool.
So that's Succubus that's getting 10 attacks, hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s, getting extra attacks for each one that fails, then fights twice.
That's so ridiculous. That's so ridiculous.
But she will blend.
You're going to see that everywhere. And I'll tell you what, the new Harlequins Codex, when it comes out, better be bloody amazing after this.
Like the relics that are over in this Book of Rust, none of them really jump out at me. So if you want me to go through the Book of Rust supplement in another video fully, I will. But for today, we'll keep it mostly to this book. But I felt the Warlord trait was pretty important there.
Yeah, for sure. Let's do that.
Cult of the Cursed Blade. These are really cool. So their obsession is +1 to strength for models with this obsession. So now those strength 3 models go to strength 4. Not all of them have got poison.
Mm-hmm.
So Hellions are Witch Cult, and so are Reaver Jet Bikes. Both of those are very fast, and Hellions actually kind of want to be hitting in close combat. And with combat drugs, you can then take that up another strength, which would be to strength 5.
That's an important one to hit.
Yeah. And each time you make an unmodified saving throw of 6 for a model with this obsession against a melee attack, you bounce back a mortal wound. Cursed Blade are pretty cool.
Damn, yeah, that is pretty cool.
Yeah. So +1 strength, but with combat drugs, you can go to strength 5, and then any 6s to save you make, bounce a mortal wound back.
Yeah, that's really cool. But I tell you what, that's not just good like game mechanically. That's just going to be a fun ability to roll dice for. Do you know what I mean?
Good
it's going to feel
mechanically.
good.
It's good mechanically, and it's going to be hella fun.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun to do that.
And the Warlord trait they get access to, each time you make an unmodified save of 4+ against a melee attack, after the attacking model's units finish making attacks, the enemy unit suffers a mortal wound, but they don't benefit from the 6s do a mortal wound. So it increases that to a 4+ for your Warlord.
Yeah, okay. I quite like these guys so far.
Yeah, and in close combat, succubuses and witches and things, they get a 4+ invulnerable. So each time you make a save, you're bouncing a mortal with that Warlord.
Mm.
And then there's Traitor's Embrace. So it can only go on your succubus. If the bearer is destroyed by a melee attack, on a 2+, after the enemy unit has finished making their attacks, they take D3+3 mortal wounds. So you send in your succubus, you do a bunch of attacks, you kill a bunch of the unit, they kill your succubus on the backswing, and then you do D3+3 mortal wounds to them on a 2-up.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
You can really build a suicide succubus with these.
Mm.
And then they get venomous shard bombs. So use it after an enemy unit's declared a charge against a Cursed Blade Witches unit from your army. That unit can fire Overwatch before the charge roll is made. So it's a 1 CP that gives you Overwatch and an extra ability. And when it does so, up to 5 models in that unit are equipped with can throw plasma grenades. And until the end of the phase, plasma grenades with this unit gain poison 2+.
Gee whiz! What? That is the stratagem that keeps on giving.
Yeah, it really is. So as a faction, the Cursed Blade Witches get 2 Overwatches, and one of them lets them throw up to 5 plasma grenades that get poison 2+.
So savage. I'm surprised there's not anything in there that lets her hit on 2s on Overwatch as well.
I mean, they're the aggressive. Like all witches are aggressive, but these guys seem like they've got a lot of damage.
Hmm.
Then we've got Red Grief. I haven't been hearing too many people talk about these, but they have some interest. So Speed of the Kill is their obsession. You reroll charge rolls made for units with this obsession. Pretty good.
Gotta love any combat style army that gets reroll charges.
But witches are all about the combat.
Yeah.
And you get +2 to advance rolls. So, and because Power from Pain from turn 2, they get advance and charge.
Mm.
So you could have these in...
Yeah, Drukhari, let's just clear this up. Drukhari become all of the best things Harlequins have at turn 2 in the game. Like, that's the whole shtick, is that they can advance and charge, fall back and charge, and all this kind of stuff.
Their hypersweep reflexes. Each time a melee attack is made against this warlord, an unmodified roll of 1 to 3 for that attack fails.
Transhuman, nice.
Well, it's transhuman on hit rolls.
Oh, it's for hit rolls. Oh, I
Yeah,
see.
an unmodified hit roll. I don't know if I misspoke, but it's unmodified hit roll of 1 to 3 fails.
Oh, I see. Well, that's interesting.
Their relic is the Blood Glaive. It changes their Archite Glaive to +2 strength, AP 3, flat damage 3.
That's not a bad weapon at all.
It's not bad, but you'll see.
It's got no poison though, right? No.
It doesn't have poison.
No, it doesn't.
Important thing with poison, there is a stratagem that we'll get to that lets your poison work against vehicles.
Oh, come on. Are you joking?
I'm not joking.
I mean, it only works against Mortarion. Is that not enough? The Lord of Poison.
Yep.
Right, of course. Right.
So back to the Red Grief. So their stratagem, 1 CP, use this stratagem after a Red Grief infantry unit has resolved its close combat attacks, but before it makes a consolidation move. Instead of consolidating as normal, if every model from this unit is within 6 inches of a friendly Cult of the Red Grief transport, they can embark that transport as if it were the movement phase, even if that unit has disembarked this turn. So, as an example, you could have a unit that in turn 2 advances and charges out of their raider. The raider charges the same unit as they do. They make their attacks, and then for 1 command point, they get in the raider.
This is insane.
There's a lot of shenanigans. They're definitely a thinking man's army.
Yeah. This is amazing. This is all.
It is such a good book.
So over the top. This is crazy.
I only have 1 model for Drukhari at the moment. I wish I had an army of them right now.
Oh, your aircraft.
Yeah, I've got a Void Raven bomber sat up on my shelf.
Incredibly painted. I'll say it. Really nice.
But maybe at some point I'll finish off and I'll get some more.
I bet you will after this.
Yeah. So again, the other cults, none of them hugely jump out at me. But they're all pretty cool, like the Carbals were. But none of them hugely jump out at me.
Okay. That's fair. I think they're really more for people who want to play the fluff and come up with something that's specifically theirs.
Yeah. So now we've got homunculi covens. The prophets of flesh. So everyone will remember these from the previous book. They were the ones that got the 4-up invulnerable saves. They were the really, really tanky ones. So now their obsession is connoisseurs of pain. At the start of your command phase, each character, grotesque, or monster unit with this obsession regains a wound.
Living metal, nice.
And each time an attack is made against a unit with this obsession, unless that attack has a strength characteristic of 8 or more, they get transhuman.
No. No.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Like you're just like blown over from the looks of this.
I
was when I first read it.
So much good stuff.
When I was building a list for them, it's really easy to fit all of it in as well, because they're fairly cheap on points for the models.
Of course they are. Why wouldn't they be with all this good stuff?
The warlord trait that they get access to is Diabolical Soothsayer. And your warlord gains +1 wounds and toughness, or +1 wounds, +1 movement and attacks. Most of the time, this guy's going to get +1 wounds and +1 toughness.
Yeah, I mean, it's all right.
And they get access to the Vexator Mask. So in their previous book, Vexator Mask was you give your opponent fight last.
Okay.
And now it is enemy units cannot fire Overwatch at you. And at the start of the fight phase, you select an enemy unit within 3 of the bearer and you make them ineligible fight until all other units have done so. So
Classic.
super fight last.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get Sins Writ Large for either 1 or 2 command points, depending on the unit you're putting it on. Use its stratagem at the start of the fight phase. Select a Prophets of Flesh infantry unit from your army that is within 6 of a Prophets of Flesh homunculi unit. Till the end of the phase, each time an attack is made by this Prophets of Flesh infantry unit, you can re-roll the hit roll. If the unit is a Grotesques unit, it costs 2 command points. So re-rolls to hit.
Yeah.
It's not bad. Again, much in the way the Black Heart have kind of fallen behind one of the others. Prophets of Flesh, that in the previous book were the top dog. For me, they've fallen behind the next one as well.
Okay. Let's take a look.
The Dark Creed. These guys have got a lot going for them, especially in the combos that you can make out of them. It helps that these guys combo amazingly with those Poison Tongue Carball that we were talking about.
Oh, great.
So their obsession. Units with this obsession gain the following abilities. An aura of enemy units within 6 inches get -1 to their leadership characteristic,
Mm-hmm.
and they subtract 1 from combat attrition tests made.
So this is where
So,
your leadership bomb you were talking about comes in.
So you combine this with the Poison Tongue that you kill a model with poison.
Mm-hmm.
Now their combat attrition is on 1s, 2s, and 3s they run away.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're below half strength, that's 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s. And each time you make a melee attack from a unit with this obsession, if the target unit has a leadership characteristic that is equal to or lower than the attacking unit's leadership, you get +1 to hit.
Wait, what? So just for having a higher leadership than what you're attacking, you get +1
equal or higher.
Huh?
So this makes their racks hit on 2s, makes their grotesques hit on 2s, makes their transports hit on 3s. And their transports can carry grisly trophies, which is another -2 leadership if you're within 3 of them.
Oh my god. It's just not going to stop.
Like the leadership bomb is real and it's gonna be fun. These Dark Creed, especially with like Grisly Trophies transports, combine really well with Incubi and one of their abilities.
Your buddy Scary is going to have a field day with all this.
But yeah, so the Incubi, I'll quickly note it now. They get an ability at the start of the fight phase. They can pick an enemy unit in engagement range, and if they, on 2d6, roll higher than their opponent's leadership characteristic, that enemy unit gets fight last, and it's ineligible to fight, so they can't use interrupt stratagems or anything. Which, because all of these leadership reductions are to the characteristic, even a leadership 10 unit, you'd only have to roll an 8 on 2d6 to make them fight last with the Incubi. By having a raider with Grisly Trophy, a Coven raider with Grisly Trophies on it within 3 inches.
It's madness. It's just madness. I don't know where this is going to stop
Yeah.
at this point. I kind of think,
Well, they also get like really cool combos with the Phantasm grenade launchers, which now do mortal wounds based against rolling on your leadership.
that's the hallucinogen grenade launchers from Harlequins, right? I assume.
Yeah,
Yeah, which
yeah.
I'm a big
But
fan.
each unit of Carbolites can have one.
Oh, great.
Each unit of Carbolites can have one. Each raider can have one.
Oh, brilliant.
like, like,
Brilliant.
there's a the sample list that I put together. Cat has 12 Phantasm grenade launchers in it, along with the -3 leaderships.
I don't. I think they've gone too far. Have they? Have they gone too far, Gareth?
They still fall over like paper. They cannot take a hit. They hit super hard, but they can't tank it.
Well, I guess we'll see. You know, time will tell, won't it? I
It's a
mean,
very good book with some
when
very strong things going on.
if these guys are placing like first, second, third, fourth, fifth every
We'll
major
see what
tournament
the
around the
future
world,
brings.
yeah.
Yeah.
Goodness me.
So the warlord trait that they get access to, this is what creates, as Scary said in one of his videos, the Ooga Booga homunculi.
Okay.
So at the end of your movement phase, you can select an enemy unit within 9 inches of this warlord and roll 3d6. If the result is greater than the enemy unit's leadership characteristic, which remember, you're already debuffing leadership with this list, until the start of your next movement phase, that enemy unit cannot perform actions. If it was already doing an action, that action fails and they lose objective secured.
Nice, nice. So yeah, what I'm seeing here. Sorry to just kind of steer
No,
away
no,
from your plan again, but what we seem to be seeing here is unique abilities from every faction all melded into one. So you've got the transhuman from
yeah,
the permanent transhuman, which you've seen on a couple of units like Doomsday
Deathwing,
Arcs,
yeah,
Deathwing, exactly that kind of stuff. You're seeing the Harlequins Phantasm grenade launcher, their advance in charge, their fallback in charge shenanigans. You're seeing these huge leadership debuffs and playing sort of almost like, I mean, the Death Guard are
yeah.
nowhere near as good as it, but they have the whole.
I, this leadership bomb list that I've got the idea for, I think in the hands of a skilled player, it will be very good.
Hmm. It seems to be they've got the fight last abilities they've got in spades, all this kind of stuff, and yeah, it seems they've got so much, just all the best things from all the best books at the moment, which is
Yeah,
crazy.
or at least the best aggressive things, apart from the transhuman on the other coven.
Hmm.
And they get a relic pistol for their relic. So a Dark Creed homunculi replaces their Stinger pistol, range 12, pistol 3, strength 2, AP 3, damage 1, and poison 2 plus, but you can't take invulnerable saves.
Again, another one. Multiple weapons here that can't use invulnerables against. Just mad.
Yep. Their stratagem is really fun. So for either 2 or 3 command points if you're using it on a Talos. Use this stratagem when you select a Dark Creed core or Dark Creed character unit from your army to shoot with. Until the end of the phase, you can ignore Lookout Sir.
Great. Okay.
So you can have a Talos with, say, a pair of liquefier guns
Yeah.
and some heat lances, and you can shoot a character with it for 3 CP.
What's the range on heat lances?
18 now, and they have Melter at full range, so
Yeah.
they're D6 plus 2 damage.
At full range.
Yeah.
I'm off. Oh,
They've got so many tools, but they will burn through command points even with their 14, and they will take a lot of finesse to play because they don't take a hit very well. Right. So the next coven we've got is the Coven of the 12. They get the Butchers of Flesh obsession. So each time a model with this obsession makes an attack with a melee weapon that's not a relic, improve the AP of that attack by 1.
Not on
So
sixes.
their rack blades are now AP2.
That's very good.
It also means that their raiders, because their transports can have the obsessions as well, would be AP2. And if a unit with this obsession is performing an action, you can still make attacks with ranged weapons. So if you were to put, say, like hex rifles, or so the sniper rifles on the acathists for the unit, you could do an action with the unit and still fire your sniper rifle.
That's very cool.
Their warlord trait, Scarlet Epicurean. Each time an attack's allocated to this warlord, -1 to the damage.
All right.
And the Flensing Blade. It replaces their homunculi tools, and it's strength user, AP2, damage D3, poison 2+. Each time an attack is made with this weapon that targets a character unit, that attack has damage flat 3.
Especially, yeah, the nice thing is you're wounding them all on 2s. That's...
Yeah. And so it won't get the +1 AP from here because it's a relic, but it's still AP2, which will put...
2's a nice number because in a lot of stuff you're just pushing it back to the invuln, you know?
Yeah. And then they get a most inventive demise for 1 command point. So use this stratagem after a Coven of the 12 homunculi unit from your army consolidates. Select an enemy character model, excluding vehicles or monsters, that is within engagement range of this homunculi unit. And roll a d6. On a 2 to 5, that model suffers d3 mortal wounds. On a 6, they take d3 plus 3. So you could have a homunculi section of your army that, unlike the homunculi covens of the previous book, where they'd be your backfield objective holders, you could have a very aggressive coven that runs at your opponent, charges into them, gets extra AP, and then just when your homunculi consolidates into an enemy character, they just snipe them out for a CP. You could have a very forward moving coven
here. Yeah, it's interesting actually, isn't it? Like, I saw this a little bit in the Dark Angels book, but I wonder if this is something we'll see a bit more and more, where you've got these little sub factions that almost look like they are obviously in this one, but designed to work in tandem with each other within that army. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
the Dark Creed and Poison Tongue are a huge example of that.
Yeah, I wonder if that's going to be a bit more of a common theme within the 9th codexes coming out.
Especially the ones that have got multiple sub-factions that generally see play together, yeah. Going on to the other covens. So there's one of these that everyone will remember from the previous book. It's Dark Technomancers. It has changed, but it's still pretty good. So each time a unit with this subsection is selected to shoot, you can choose to enhance any or all of the ranged weapons that unit is equipped with. If you do so until the end of the phase, each time an attack is made with an enhanced weapon, add 1 to the wound roll and add 1 to the damage. But that attack's hit roll cannot be re-rolled, and any unmodified hit rolls of 1 made for attacks with an enhanced weapon, the bearer suffers a mortal wound after shooting it. If the bearer is a vehicle or a monster, they take D3 mortal wounds instead.
There's a lot to unpack there.
So the key thing with this is liquefier guns are flamers.
Yeah.
So damage 2 plus 1 to wound, flamers, that you could have a unit of 5 grotesques with 5 liquefier guns. shooting out of a raider, like so from inside the transport. With like it, that's pretty tasty.
Yeah. I'm trying to think how I would deal with that. And
But with a +1 to wound, +1 damage, just unit of flamers.
yeah, yeah. Well, of course, if they're in
Obviously,
the
the
radar,
the
like you
downside to
say,
this,
they've got huge mobility as well,
yeah.
which is
So the big downside to this is it is all consuming, so it takes up your whole trait,
hmm
and depending on your list build, it might not work well with your other factions.
well, you're having to tech around it, aren't you? Really?
Yeah. So it's the Dark Technomancers is going to cost you more points to use, simply because it wants you to use your shooting weapons, and on your coven units, they all cost points.
Well, it's very nice. I mean, if that's the way you want to run it, then there's definitely something there for you, isn't there?
Oh yeah, it's really good, especially when combined with the liquefier guns because they don't make hit rolls,
Yeah. If
so they
you
don't overheat off of this.
sure. Yeah. I mean, if you like the idea of drive-by acid attacks, which is basically what this is, right?
Yeah.
Real gangster. Then yeah, I guess this is the one for you.
Right, so that brings us to the end of all the Carballs, Cults, and Coven rules, and there's still loads to unpack from this book. So we'll come back in part 2, and we'll see you soon.
As always, be safe, be good to each other, and from me,
And me.
and of course, Big E here, we will see you later.